Hey, welcome to Money Matters. It's Kevin Hunter, your North Texas home hunter.
And Bryan Connatser here with Cardinal Financial. We're the mortgage side.
All right, so what we want to do today is really kind of talk about the year in review, right? So in 2023, maybe kind of dabble into what we're seeing on 2024. So one of the things that I really noticed was, even though it was kind of a down year, it really was only down by 6%, right? So, not insignificant, but not, the total crash that people were kind of concerned about and some were forecasting. I really thought it was interesting. One of the trends we continue to see is a lot of the East Coast, West Coast migration in, right? It's like 2% of all home searches throughout the United States were focused just on Frisco, right?
Wow.
And 2% of the entire U.S. So I thought that was interesting. Again, the migration, right? The number one, residents are leaving Los Angeles and coming to Frisco, followed by San Diego, and then you get some out of the East Coast and even out of Chicago, Illinois, some of that stuff. So we're seeing a lot of relocations of business, and we're seeing a lot of those residents of those organizations from those different geographies all coming into Texas for kind of the business benefits, and then of course they bring the clients who love the home prices in the market here.
Absolutely. In North Texas, that's one of the reasons we've seen really good price improvements, like unprecedented home price valuations improve over the last 3.5 years. And while it did, tame itself a tad in 2023, it was steady. Things were moving in the right direction in many different segments of it. But that it's heating up again. Like that's what we're seeing. It's not slowing down from the standpoint of companies or others, moving their workers here. It's the same pace is happening, and Texas is getting the vast majority of all those folks moving in.
Yeah.
And Frisco is going to have one of the best developments up there around the PGA with that Fields development. And it's 2,400 acres, and it's going to have mixed use. It's got home sites, businesses, retail, restaurants. It's literally going to be the town that everybody comes to for entertainment as well. Because is it Universal that's up there north? You've got a major, well-known theme park that's being built right here. It's a one-stop shop. So Frisco it's been hot in the past. It's going to be hotter moving forward than it has been, and that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy to say.
Well, and the thing that I love is the fact that they're starting to build so much new construction, right? And because that's always one of the main pressure points is we just don't have enough inventory, right? But when you look at 75035 zip code, they're literally, building them as fast as they can. And they're like within 2 miles of where we were recording today, there's actually 3 new subdivisions going in. There's new grocery, just everything. But I like how, and maybe this is a natural progression, right? But when you look at how it is continuing to grow north, right? Because Fields and Universal and Omni, those are all pretty far north Frisco, right? They're almost Prosper, right? And so I guess that's just the available land they have to do these projects. But to me, it's a lot better controlled, regulated growth, right? It's not like all just concentrate, right? Because then you had the Star, and now you've got Fields, and now you've got Omni, right? It feels like a really natural progression as you go up the tollway. And now they're having these amazing new residences being built. They're going to be able to accommodate all the people that are migrating in and people who are coming in for the new jobs that are being created by these new industries as well.
I've got really good friends that I've known for a very long time with a well-known builder. They're primarily Texas-centric, but I know that as I was talking to him in December, going into after the first year, so like starting now, in Frisco, in Prosper, in southern Celina, those communities, they were being allowed to start 11, 12, 13 spec homes, get them up to a point where someone can come in, see the shell, see the floor plan, pick out their colors, and move forward. And that hasn't happened literally since before the pandemic. So you're right. They're starting to try and lean into the demand that is already there to have some supply. So that's a great thing.
And then in the existing homes, existing market, right, we're seeing that The days on market this year was, in 2023 was not much different than before, right? So, just a few days longer on market. It's taken a little bit longer to sell some of these, but it really is kind of dependent on the property itself. And that's what I found about 2023 is like, you can classify them as like, $1 million and above, right? Luxury homes, or below that to 700, and everybody moves at a different rate on market. But to me, I felt it was interesting. If you looked at the individual property, I mean, we were selling them $900 million, and they wouldn't last 2 weeks, right? I mean, they literally had one open house on one weekend, and they were under contract the next week, and it took a week to close, and they were off market. So I hadn't really been exposed to a bunch that were taking 40 or 50 days and bringing those averages up. The ones that I had seen moved really quick. Nice place, got a pool, right? Good, in Frisco, everyone's got good schools to go to. I was seeing stuff move really, really quick.
So we have a client that there is a house. It was overpriced, and our buyer's agent knew that it was overpriced. He didn't let his clients make an offer in that area, but he was watching it. And when had been out there on the market for a little while, it actually reached 91 days before they made an offer.
Wow!
But there had been no offers come in. Well, because they had it improperly priced, and then the realtor knew what the market should be. They came in at the 91st day, made an offer at the ballpark of where it should have been, and then they were able to convince the seller to pay for a 2-1 buy down.
Oh,
so
wow.
It cost like $13,000.
Yeah.
So they got the house under what it was on the market for because it had been sitting there.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, most of them are not sitting that long.
Yeah.
So they probably have an idea that seller was wet. Their appetite was very ready for an offer to come in the door. So they got the value of the home, and then they got that buy down where their rate's 2% less for the first year on a $550,000 house and 1% lower on that for the second year. So when there is that opportunity, that might be something that could be jumped on. But that's definitely like the days on market are going to start shoring up a little bit. I really truly believe that.
Yeah. And it's even with some of the new inventory coming in, right? Some people prefer new builds. Some people prefer, the existing homes in existing neighborhoods. So I think with that, right? Because right now it's been a seller's market feels like for a while. Mm-hmm. It kind of got almost to where it was dead even right in between.
Yeah, it was right. I agree.
75035, it was dead even. If you went over to 75034, it was still a little bit more in favor of the seller, but that gap certainly closed, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to see that kind of evening out with new inventory coming out, rates going down. There's going to be a lot more people out there trying to buy homes. Yeah. It's going to get really interesting, and that's one of the hardest things as a real estate agent is trying to help your clients understand. Hey, I think we're overpriced, right? I've done the market analysis for our neighborhood, similar homes. This is what they're going for, right? So it's amazing that they went 90 days without a reduction, price improvement.
And there had been reductions, but not
no offers.
The seller was not allowing them to get it into the ballpark where the real estate professional was telling them it should sell. So even though it went down, it didn't generate any activity.
Wow.
Still too high.
And 90 days isn't like forever long, but if you're expecting it to sell in 2 weeks or certainly a month, then that does feel like forever, and you do feel like, okay, maybe we didn't start off at the right price. We need to come down to a price where the market can support that, and we'll get some buyers in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you get the 2-1 buy down, right? That's just the dream come true, right? Because then you are truly just marrying the house and then dating the rate at that point.
Right. And somewhere between that first year at 2% lower and the final graduated payment, we do expect rates to get back down to some level of normalcy instead of these ridiculously elevated rates, but they're still elevated now.
Yeah. And let's put that in perspective. These rates aren't crazy.
No, we're in the 60s.
Just over the last 5 or 10 years, it's been crazy market. But if you look historically, rates are up 12, 15, 18%, right? Almost like a credit card, right? So the rates are still good. It's just they haven't been as awesome as they have been the past few years.
Agreed. Yeah, the early 2000s is the last time that we saw rates hit the 8% or go over 8%. And we were there again back in October and in early November. So those are on the higher side of of normal. But then they're now falling back, and we're, again, for the most buyers, we're under 7% on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Even locking 6.5% for one client this morning. So all the criteria comes together. But you're right. I mean, so you go from the year 2000, early 2000s, you're at 8%, and then there was that boom where we dropped underneath 6% for a period of time in the early to mid 2000s, and then it got back up into the sixes in the late 2000s. And then you had the housing bubble, that big Great Recession that hit, and that dropped rates back down into the fours and the low fives.
It's like 2008, 2009.
2008, yeah, exactly, right on the money. And then we saw macroeconomic events happening in Europe in 2013, and that dropped rates into the threes. And then they jumped back up into the mid fives and the lower four or upper fours. And then in 2016, you had another event that was major Eurozone oriented, but it caused those investors to really flee to the U.S. safe haven. And so we had rates back in the 3% again for that short period of time in 2016. After that, like you said, man, we were in the fives, or low sixes. I mean, this where we're at is just not bad. We're getting back to some level of normalcy.
We've been spoiled.
Yes, we have been.
Yeah, and this was brought up to me recently, that people view something as vintage when it's 25 years or older. So those rates that you were talking about early 2000s, I'm like, oh, that's yesterday. I'm like, that's about to be vintage. Like we're a couple years away from it being vintage.
Wow.
So yeah, 25 to 100 years is people consider it vintage. So it's like things that happened in early 2000s seem like yesterday for old people like us. It's about to be vintage.
One of the things that, and this has nothing to do with money matter, but you're talking about this. When I see a movie on TV, my wife and I, we watch movies and sports. It's really our two big things that we do. Yeah. And you're like, I wonder when that movie was made. You pull it up, 2009. You're like, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Really? And then you see one, and it's like, when was that movie made? 1999.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, that's just a couple years. Oh no, this is 23.
Yeah, my son's 24 years old. My middle one's not 1999 model.
Wow.
So, like you said,
he's about to be vintage.
Yeah. So those types of things, the trend that we see through the years, you'll see home prices. They literally almost never decrease. Yeah. The only times we've seen a decrease in the last 3 decades was around the Great Recession, that 2007, 2008. 2009 era.
Yeah.
But they came right back though. The 2010s were tremendous for home values. The 2020s have been tremendous for home values already.
Yeah.
In North Texas is, I would say, almost an unmovable positive appreciation trend.
Yeah. Yeah. And and the longer I'm in this industry, it's amazing to me how, I mean, as safe as an investment can be, real estate is the answer, right? Whether you're buying land, whether you're buying homes, right? Whether you're doing investment homes, flipping, all that kind of good stuff. It feels like and maybe it's just because we live in Frisco, right? We live in North Texas, where I don't care what's going on in the rest of the U.S. or even the rest of the world, real estate market wise, we are super healthy, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is all I know, and it feels like this is kind of a no-brainer investment, right?
Having seen those, and what Tom talked about, having seen it through time, North Texas is insulated. We're so diverse economically. Yeah. Austin is tech heavy, and if tech is taking a hit, Austin real estate will slow down. It's never going to be a bad investment in Austin, to be honest with you. But again, we're talking about through time. But moment to moment, you can see a slowdown if tech gets hit. Houston is so oil heavy that if oil has an issue, you're going to see real estate issues happen in the Houston area.
Yeah.
West Texas is oil and windmill based.
Yeah.
I mean, they're either booming or they are busting. And it happens that way in Midland, Odessa, and hopefully there's more boom than there is bust. But you still don't lose money out there. I mean, but it's a slower trickle, and if something happens and you do need to move, then you may have a harder time out west than you would if you're right here in this North Texas area where there's not enough land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, the investment here is unprecedented when you compare it to anywhere else in the nation.
And you look, I mean, just now that you see, to me, Frisco almost being saturated, at least along the tollway up north, Then you look at what's happening in Prosper, right? And then you hear what they're doing up in Celina, and they're saying, okay, that's going to be the next Frisco. Man, real estate just seems like, if you got 5 or 10 years to park some money, man, I mean, you look at our house, the one we live in right now, it's doubled in price in 10 years.
Yeah.
It's almost doubled in what we paid and what it's worth on the market now. So don't expect that to change anytime soon.
Nope. Go back 20 years, the year 2000, was when we bought our first home in Frisco in July of 2000. The tollway stopped at headquarters in Plano.
Oh yeah.
Right. There was no tollway.
Yeah.
There was the passage roads on the side, but their 4-way stopped there at 121 and the tollway. Mm-hmm. Now the tollway goes all the way up into and nearly past Celina.
Yeah.
And there's development that entire way up. It has fueled that whole thing where you can get from Prosper and Celina down into Dallas for work or whatever within a 30-minute commute, and therefore it's going to continue to explode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Prosper's footprint, is it bigger? Do I remember it being bigger than Frisco's?
I do not know.
Okay, I think I remember at one point in time Celina's is not, but I think Prosper's footprint is actually bigger than Frisco's. So I think there's the potential to have a big brother per se that's actually the younger brother sitting on top of Frisco sometime in the near future.
Yeah, lots of development. I mean, I wanted to move up there, I don't know if it was Prosper or Celina, just to get a bigger backyard, right? Because we've got a pretty small one now. I would love to have like 3/4 of an acre, right? We've got the pool, which is kind of half of our backyard. Have a pool, have some grass for the dogs to run around and kind of play and stuff. But the wife commutes. I'm home office most of the time, so that was something where I got shut down because you got to respect the commute and to add another 10 or 15 minutes for her. But it's interesting to see Frisco, right? Because she doesn't work in Frisco, but if she did work in Frisco, she'd be wide open to that, right? Because there's so much business and so much corporate activity here that a lot of these people, if she wouldn't mind the commute if it was just 10 or 15 minutes up the road, right?
Right. So, yeah, I got it. Definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up another episode of Money Matters. Stay tuned. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll keep this great information coming to you.
Ask us questions. We'd love to help out.
All right. Thanks.